let's just get started. Guys, today we're going to take a trip back up north. I like it in Maine. I've always liked it in Maine. I've made several trips, was up there this summer. Just had Brandon Mitchell on. So I follow this fella on Facebook and Instagram. I keep up with this stuff. I really admire the dogs, the videos that he puts up. And, you know, if you want my opinion, which doesn't matter for much, what a dog should look like, you know, you pull his stuff up. This is what I like to see in a dog. Decent legs, not overly heavy. Color doesn't matter, but it does matter. Nice blanket back, red heads. Just some phenomenal looking hounds. So today we got Kirk Rogers on, and he's with Bear and Hound Outfitters up in Maine. How's the weather up your way today?
Well, she's in the 40s.
Yeah.
It's been cool, 28, 29 in the mornings. It's bear season's over. Deer season's here. Downtime for the dogs, for me and them, kind of recoup, and maybe I'll get some deer hunting in, and maybe I'll get a little coon hunting in with a couple puppies, and just mess around and let them have the deer season off and move forward into cat season.
Yeah, I mean, let's. And I know you said you were in your downtime trying to recoup from month and a half of hard hunting. So when did your season start? When did you first start having clients? How did that work out? And it looked like through your social media that you had a fairly decent season.
We had a good season. I mean, it's hound season starts like the second week of September, and I had 4 guys came over from the country in Norway, and they brought 2 hounds, and we had a hell of a 10 days hunting. They can go through the woods. Not much of a language barrier, there's just a little bit there every once in a while, but showed them a pile of bears. We did kill several big ones. First one we treed was over 500, and treed him in a 25-foot dead spruce, top busted off, and had a bunch of long walks, and we had some short walks. But in that country I hunt, I think 1.8 was the longest walk to a tree, and I think the shortest one was 450 yards. And through the season with clients, I had some other guys with hounds come up and run, and some succeeded, and some found it a little rough and needed their dogs a little bit more in shape. But all in all, it's, when you go to different ground, you expect different things.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was going to ask you, what the guys that brought hounds in, what was the main difference? Was it because they weren't in shape, or just different country?
I think it's a little bit of the different country. When you get up over 2,000 feet to 2,500 feet in the mountains, you start getting into a lot of rock and boulders and ledge and all that mixed thick spruce you can't walk through. Mm-hmm. And then when you get on top, all that stuff is wind damage, so you have a lot of falling blowdowns, and you need an athletic, agile dog to get through that. And one fellow that came up from Western New York there, he said he thought my dog's a part kangaroo, because standing against a rock, I don't know, about a 6-foot boulder, 2 of my dogs just gracefully jumped right up there and just started licking my buddy's face, and he's like, that's what it takes in this country. And I'm like, that's what it does, I mean, fast track dogs.
Yeah.
Fast track dogs.
Well, and I want to get into your dogs in a little bit. I want to, talk a little bit more about your season and hunting. What, and I know you're hunting a bunch of young dogs, so we'll get to that. Any hunts that really stood out to you, with your clients? Anything that kind of sticks out in your head that was either memorable, or this is not the way the things are supposed to go? Because we know we get both varieties of that.
Oh, they ain't perfect. They don't walk on water. I did have a couple of trash races, and you're going to get that, and we did mix up a few dogs, and, we had a couple training incidents, but that's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't consider any dog 100% broke. I mean, there's just pressure and competition, and and you're going to get that with young dogs. My buddy Shane walked the dogs in some beach, and I said, well, I'll man the road, you know, in case they dump over on the other side, I can pack them up. And he took 4 dogs. What did he take? He took 3 bitches and one young male dog, and walked the beach. And he said it was the best day of the whole season for him, is because he sat on a rock and listened to him cold trail, jump, go off the face of one mountain, down in, cross a big stream, pull up on the next mountain to 2,900 feet, made a hook, and come right back down and treed right on a bench right beside a hiking trail. And it put us only at 0.6 for a hike. But he said, I listened to the whole thing. I listened to the dogs bait up for 15, 20 minutes and then move a little bit and tree. And he was pumped up. And I think he was a little more than pumped up. He was wound up a little bit. And I had two races, because in that country, you're going to get them, you're going to listen to them trail out, and then next thing you know, they're up on it, gone over the mountain. You drive around, they're either still running, baying, or they're treed.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get that. But we had one day, it was just him and my buddy Shane and I and a client, and we dumped them out on a bait, and they went out, and he checked the camera, and we baited it up, and it was like, 3 o'clock. It was Monday morning. So we dumped them out, and they went out trailing, and they come back, and they got down in the beach, and they started trailing good, and we listened to them go out. I think it was 1.1 mile when they jumped, and then it was instantly caught, and they just walked and baited him. Shane goes back in because he wanted to delete the card on the camera, and comes back out and says, I messed up. He said, that was 3 a.m. Sunday morning. Now, I'm not saying them dogs took a track that old. They had enough scent to move them out and get them into the beach where that bear was probably feeding. And we listened to the whole thing. We listened to them bay and bay and bay and bay and bay, and then settle right down, and just nothing moved. And then they went to treeing, and they were 2.5 miles away. And it was just one of them days, and you never get that in that country, you know. And we got to listen to the whole thing. And then when we pulled up to a gated road to hike in, we got away from the river about 0.3 of a mile, and we could hear them a little over a mile pounding on the side of that mountain, and we listened to them the whole way in, and you'd have thought they were 300 yards from you. They sounded so good.
Now, that elevation, it puts you in a lap, doesn't it? Yeah,
and I had some other good hunts where, young dogs stayed right up with them faster older dogs that, I can't say older, one just turned 3, and the other one's going to be 3 in December. They probably ran 5 miles, and we listened to quite a bit of that race. That out into a big bowl, came smoking right back, parallel with the road, and they caught it. And on the GPS, it was just one triangle, so nobody was really in front, nobody was behind, And then they just 15 minutes of baying, and they treat it, and you just appreciate that when you get them listen to the whole thing, especially when they've covered that much ground.
Mm-hmm. So how many days a year do you actually hunt? How many do you think?
Well, I try and hunt as many days as I can in the summertime training, which this year we had so much rain.
Mm-hmm.
But I try and hunt every day of training season, which is July and August, and then pretty much every day during kill season. There's another, I think, 42 days in kill season, and then during the winter, I cat hunt just about every single day, from good conditions to poor conditions. And that's basically, I think that helps the young dogs, the puppies, learn how to cold trail, and you see it quicker. It brings it out of them. I mean, when you can, I like to put them on a few coons, put them on some cats, and then switch them over to bear. And the cold trailing just seems to be easier.
Well, that's
once you work them on 20 cats during the winter, I don't really care about killing another cat. I mean, dogs caught one a couple of years ago with 42 pounds.
Oh, nice.
That's a monster cat. But just to go run and have fun, I do that pretty much at least 3 to 4 days a week all winter.
The cats?
The bobcats, and that's middle of December, end of December till the end of February, and then it's downtime. But I mean, I don't use any leashes. I take leashes to a tree, I'll tie them back.
Mm-hmm.
Training season, and just if the bear's comfortable, the dogs are comfortable, I just start unhooking and I tell them we're done here. Let's leave it. I hit the tone button and let's go. Now I do have a couple that want to sneak back, and you got to give them a little juice. But I mean, I've walked in on bait up bear during the summertime, and just started catching dogs and toning them back to me. And I got a couple that don't want to quit, and I got to get a little electricity on them, but it doesn't stop them. Then I just hook them all up. Bear walks off. I sit down. I let the adrenaline come out of them dogs for 10 or 15 minutes. I unhook them all, and I said, let's go. And all 6 right to the truck.
Yeah. Well, I think
you're doing... and that shows. It shows when you spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah, I think you were explaining something a lot of people don't let happen is, you've got to let that prey drive kind of dissipate. You can't just do it when they're still in that state of mind. So I think you taking that break and letting them calm down is a huge, huge plus. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if you get to a tree and pet them all up, and you're there for a half an hour taking pictures and videos, it's just like during kill season. The bear's in a tree. He's already dead if you pull the trigger. He's caught. It's the hunt's over. I want to get pictures and videos, and you get some of them. You can take 1,000 pictures to get one awesome picture.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to me.
Yeah. So how many
you can fall back on that?
Well, I'm sitting here scrolling through a bunch of your pictures now, just looking, and there's quite a bit. I mean, you've got some really good, and I noticed it. I was, you and I talked a little bit before, but like in most of your pictures, you only have 3 or 4 dogs. I've seen 5 in a couple pictures.
That's all you need.
Yep.
Yeah. I got 6 dogs and I got 7 actually, and I might run 4 today and give the other 3 a day off, or hold them in case I need to pack a couple in. But if you're feeding the right 3 or the right 7 or 6, you only got to run 3 or 4.
That's right.
And it's ground time, and you can see when they need a break. You can see when that dog, he's going to give it. He's going to give you what he can give you. But if you run them 5, 6, 7 days a week, you can see they need a day off or 2 days off, and then the whole game changes again. You can see it in a step. And I've been feeding that a nut shuck like you are. And as a matter of fact, I just ordered a pallet. I got to pick up the first next week. And I mean, I add supplements to my feed, and it doesn't matter what I ever fed over the years, was Purina or Black Gold. I add supplements. I believe in that K9 super fuel. I got a few dogs that need a little more fat in them, so I'll add that Dine. I'll give them a little splash of B12. I'll mix some canned dog food in so they'll eat, because canned dog food, it really isn't no nutrition. It's a lot of moisture, and they need water. They need that to recover.
Yeah. Well,
and I think the best out there is that a nutshot.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I seen that you commented that you were going to get another pallet. What blend are you feeding?
I ended up getting 35 bags of the 2616, and I got 30 bags of the 3025.
Yep. Yeah.
And the protein you have to watch. I mean, you can see it in the dogs during the summer when it's hot. They just can't burn all that protein. So I'd rather have less and more fat, but you never get that combination. That 30-25 is about as close as you can get, but the 26-16, if I got to add some Dine, if I got to add whatever, but I faithfully put that K9 super fuel in the dog food daily with water.
And where do you get that from?
I ordered it online. I used to be able to get an 8-pound container for like $93, but now it's down to 2 and 4-pound containers. But it's definitely a supplement that I add. I mean, when you're running every single day, this year I had fellows bring their dogs, so I give my dogs a day or 2 off, watch theirs, and then pull out the Holstein heat afterwards. That's all,
Yeah. So how many
But
how how
go
many
ahead.
clients did you run this year? Do you know?
I had 26
Oh
total,
wow.
and we killed 24 bears. One guy was looking for a real big bear. One guy had to go home. I take it back, 27. We ended up treating a big bear in New Hampshire. The guy had passed during the week. Other clients had taken. He killed a big bear with me last year, 450. He
Mm-hmm.
had a blast. He's coming back next year. And then had one that had to go home, emergency. He had to fly back home.
Oh.
I wish he'd stayed, but he's coming back. I told him just come back next year for nothing. And then I had another client looking for a big bear. Everybody's always looking for a big bear. If you got them, you can get on them. But then big bears don't stay on baits, And
Mm-hmm.
we did a lot of walk hunting, and you're getting on 100, 150-pound bears, 200-pound bears. But trying to find that monster is, that's a unicorn.
Yeah.
If you ain't got them on bait. I mean, I've been lucky. A couple years ago, we rig struck and treed one, and it was a 600-pounder. Last day of the season, we got lucky that way, off a rig strike. But I've had some I've struck off the rig. I mean, we had that one this year and went into the bait, and I got that's 250-pound bear, and dogs went in cold trailed and went out of there fairly decent and covered a lot of ground, and we ended up treeing one over 500. I don't know where he come from, if he was coming to the bait and it made a turn or what, but that's the joy of running a bait sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure the client didn't mind that at all, did they?
No, he was pretty wound up, and then we killed. Oh, let's see. I think we killed 4 that had white D's on them this year.
Oh yeah, I commented on one of those because that's a rarity. You don't see a lot of those.
No, and when we got lucky, I mean, I had Katie Gilly shot a bear. It was a 160-pound bear. Last year, she shot a small bear, her first bear. Matt, her husband Matt, I get my lobsters off during bear season for the client,
Uh-huh.
and we just worked out a deal that way. And Katie was going for a grand slam this year. Last year, she killed a bear, had a white bee on it. Wasn't a big bear, but it was her first bear, and she was happy to take it. This year, she got a nice bear, and we rolled it over, and I was like, 2 in a row. She had white on that one. And then she killed a cow moose a week or so ago. So she's on her way to her grand slam, which is a turkey, a deer, a moose, and a bear in Maine.
Oh, nice.
And we did kill one that was like 350, 380, that had a lot of white on his chest. And and then we killed one. I had a first-time client. He killed a bear. Bear was coming down the tree when we got in there, and, things get Wild West, and he took it, and it had a New Hampshire nuisance bear tag in its ear and a white bee.
Oh wow!
I said, you just hit the unicorn. 140-pound bear, but had a beautiful coat. And some of these bears we killed this year, no fat on them. And then we get ones that had 60 or 80 pounds of fat on them. 5, 6, 7, 8 inches of fat.
You think they just hadn't hit the food source good yet?
I don't know. They were hitting baits, and then they're in the beach and back and forth. And you're thinking the donuts and nuts are going to put them on. Then they're getting in the beach nuts, and we had so much rain. So walking the beach, and this is just my analysis of it, is any other year you're walking the beach and you got, whether you're walking the beach or the acorns, you can see where the bear are just raking and digging everything up because you have a loose leaf pack.
Right.
This year we had so much rain, the leaves were packed, everything's laying on top, so they didn't have to paw for it. They just went around like a vacuum cleaner. So, walking through the beach, normally you're looking down through the hardwood and you can see that stuff that's turned up. This year you couldn't see anything, so you had to be on it. You had to be on it. But I mean, I just hunt my dogs loose, and I hit the tone button every once in a while on them. I want them checking in, and let's all just work together. And I get some certain spots I like to walk, and I like to walk them in a certain way, so I like to keep them in check. And that's just the name of the game, and years of doing it.
Yeah. No, it's kind of, we kind of hunt the same. Of course, we can't bait here, but early season, we do a lot of rigging because the bears are out checking the berries, going to, timber cut to timber cut and moving. And then after the food starts falling, you put your boots on and go, because that's what you're going to do.
Exactly. I mean, and you need a good pair of boots when you're doing it.
That's right. Yeah. So just a little bit more about your outfit. So how long have you been guiding, and are you only doing bear hunts, or do you cat hunts too, or you just cat hunt just for pleasure?
I strictly hound hunt for bears. I don't take any bait hunters, and I'll take a few guys that cat hunting. I mean, I'll just have clients that have come bear hunting that want to just come and go. Cat hunting is, it's all about conditions, and then you got to have that guy that wants to kill a cat or wants to come cat hunting. He's got to be able to take that time off when you call and say, we got conditions.
Let's go. Yeah.
So I don't push that. I just, I mean, there's Paul Laney's, probably the most successful in the state of Maine. He is a hardcore cat hunter, but he's in a bigger snow belt than I am, but he travels with the snow, and he's got a list probably a mile long.
Right.
But I just do it because I like to do it, and it's just more training for the young dogs, and I'll rotate everyone. Then you get that one that's exceptional, because a real cat dog's born, he's not made, but my thing about it is just, you'll get that exceptional dog that is a cat dog, and you're going to go through a lot to get that one. Doesn't mean they're not a super bear hound, but the cold trailing aspect that's just a big thing with me. It brings that nose out at a young age, and I watch your videos, the same thing. When I go feed my puppies, when I start feeding my puppies when they're 5 weeks old, I always have a piece of bear hide in my freezer with the fat out, and I rub the fat right on the bowl and feed them and feed them and feed them. And then when I take them outside, I'll do a drag, and they get a feed bowl at the end, and then all they have is a hide at the end of it. And I do the tall grass. I'll get some hot dogs or Vienna sausage, and I'll just broadcast toss them out in that tall grass and walk them puppies so they got their nose in the wind. And I just watch that pup that's got that picking his head up, and all of a sudden he's come up with a piece of hot dog. That might be the one I want to keep. They can pick it out of the wind. They're usually going to make a rig dog. And I've been fortunate with these dogs. I can put any combination up on top of the box or outside of the box. I like them on top, but I don't know if that's the nostalgia thing. I mean, they strike just as well out the side, but I think you reach a little more. They reach a little bit more ground when they're up higher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They pick that out of the wind.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like my dogs on top. In fact, my box is set up where they can't stick their heads. They can stick their noses through a 4-inch slot, but that way I can shut my box up. But my dogs, I like them up top.
Yep. Well, you just watch how they work.
Yeah, that's right.
If I had a lot of ground and a lot of dirt roads and minimal people, I would have a strike cage on the front just to watch them. But with that being said, with all the liberals out there, there's always a right place and a right time for that.
Right.
It's like putting certain videos up. Some are fine and some should never be on.
That's right.
There's too many people against it, and I try, and if I end up on posted land, I knock on the door and just tell them this is a walk of shame. I don't want to be here. I don't want to interrupt your day. I just want to go get my dog.
Yeah.
And 99.9% of the time, they say go ahead, and I'll invite them if they want to go. And some landowners will go right in and take pictures and bring their kids, and some just say go ahead and have a good day and thanks for asking, and in the truck I go.
Yeah.
So if I got to hunt country that's you're gonna end up going for a long walk, I'd rather go for a long walk.
Well, it's always good for your heart, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's good for the heart and knees. After you've roofed for 30 years, my knees I had to get stem cell shots in my knees last fall.
Kirk, I wanted to ask you, and I know the answer, but I want our listeners. So when you're cat hunting your younger dogs, and I know you run off baits, do you ever have them switch over to cats?
Well, let's see. They rigged and ran 3 cats this summer, and I see the cats. You know, I don't. You can't shock them for that. You know, during the winter, I'm finding tracks, putting them on tracks, walking them on tracks, and if you run a cat during the summertime, you run a cat during the summertime, and you can figure that out real quick. You know, but
yeah.
Can't scold them for it.
But now, when you go to hunting season, when you're allowed to bait, you don't see that much at all.
Oh, 3 years ago, I went to a bait. I come out of the bait. It was just I didn't have anybody hunting with me that day, other than I had a spot one client. And I come out and I said, there is an absolute monster on that bait. And I dumped them. They went right in on that bait. And I didn't have no camera on it, so I didn't know what time. And they went right out of there screaming. And they run for about a half an hour, and then they were treed. I'm like, I'm not calling that a 600-pound bear by no means. I walked in there, and they had a big cat treed. So by the time I got them picked up out of the woods, back in the truck, that bear had come out from behind the bait, and he was headed for the mountain. So I ended up dumping him. I got, rig struck it, and I never checked for tracks. I never looked, but I just happened to see the track, in the mud across the road. They ended up a mile and a half, stayed up for 2 hours, and they finally treated it, and they treated it in about an 18-inch spruce tree, about 15 feet off the ground, and it was a mile and a half, pretty much straight up. If they hadn't run the cat, we'd have probably had him beside the road.
Give him a little head. They had to give him a sporting chance, give him a head start.
Oh, they give him a head start, and they threw me under the bus on that one, because we never got out of the truck till 8:30 that night.
Oh, yeah, that makes it a little rough.
And my buddy Shane called me, and he's like, how you making out? And I go, well, we got a big bear bait up right now, and they treated him. I said, we'll see how long he stays, and he says, I'm on my way. And he left the job site, drove 40 minutes home, then he drove an hour and a half to my truck, him and his buddy, grabbed my GPS and packs, and they hiked in. I already had 2 packs with me. And by the time they got there, we had it. By the time they showed up, I couldn't roll him over to skin him anymore. Two of us were trying to pull him with leashes, and we couldn't even move it. So we ended up skinning him, quartered and packed him, and headed off the mountain at 4 o'clock, and we never got back to the truck till 8:30.
Boy, that makes for a long day, doesn't it?
It made for a long day, and I am so glad it rained the next day, because I put the hunter off till Wednesday. That was a Monday.
Give you a chance to recoup.
Yeah, and that's the last thing I want to do is kill a bear that big and have to pack it out on the first day of the season, Yeah. Kind of got to get your legs and back used to that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well,
dragon.
The Journey on Houndsman XP has teamed up with One TDC. This dual-action support for oral health and mobility in our dogs. This unique supplement is so effective that it is recommended by top veterinarian experts worldwide to maintain and improve our dog's health in 4 different areas. Their oral health, hips, joints, and muscles, skin, coat, energy, and recovery. Guys, I've been using this product for the last 6 months, and it has been a game changer for me. If you're looking for something to help with the overall health of your dog, go to worksowell.com and give this product a try. It is highly recommended by Houndsman XP here on The Journey. Well, let's get over to the dogs a little bit. You're running walkers, and first I gotta ask, and I don't know, Kurt, you're breaking up really bad.
Don't I ain't moved.
Okay, there it is. It was echoing, but now it's good. So, did you not have a dog go missing last year?
A couple of years ago, I did.
And you never did find him?
Never did find him. And then his brother it was a same cross, different litter, and they were 7 months apart. So his younger brother got killed on a Wednesday, and he went missing on Friday. I walked into the country, with a big box, trying to beep, and the GPS had gone dead, and I was getting so much bounce and hollering and screaming and just trying to get close. And there was one spot I just could not get up over, and I needed to get up over onto that Appalachian Trail, and I just couldn't get up over it. And hiked out, and I said, well, somebody's got him. So I contacted wardens, park rangers, everybody, and never found him. Never found him.
Do you think a hiker picked him up?
That would be my guess. That I had, 15 or 20 years ago, I was at a store, and I had my dogs. I used to have had an 8-foot bed truck with a 4-foot lengthwise dog box. It went right out to the beds, but it was only 4 feet long. And then I had a tie-down board behind that. And I had 3 dogs tied out. And a woman pulled in, and evidently, she was from out of state. She was a hiker. And she made some rude comments to me, and I was just pumping gas. And I looked at her and just calmly said, you ever seen a fat marathon runner? And by the time I got done pumping gas, she'd come out, and she apologized to me and said that was probably one of the best analogies that a person could ever get. And I said, look, they're athletes. I treat them like athletes. And I just try and address that to anybody that has something to say, some dogs are going to get run down a little bit, and you just gotta address that situation, get some weight back on them. That's where that dine is 47% crude fat comes in, add it to the dog food. Try and get a little meat back on them. Give them 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. Well, and I think you do some things, now we're talking about dogs, you do some things that I do, and I don't think a lot of people, well, I don't know, the guys that I hunt with are not very good at it, but they'll run their dogs 5 and 6 days a week, 3 or 4 weeks in a row. When I see my dogs are getting run down, or I see that if I see they're not performing like they should, I give them a couple days off.
As much as I hate to, and then I'm not hunting for a couple days. That's why I try and rotate. And I'll run 3 today and 4 tomorrow, mix them up, and that way I always got dogs to hunt. But you got to give them that day off. They need it. You can only push them so much, and I don't think I could. I'd push myself all bear season. 6 days a week hunting. And we had some long days. We were blessed with a few short days, but I don't think I could have pushed myself one more week. I'd worn myself out that much, and now I'm back ready to go hunting again. But you definitely got to take care of them dogs and treat them like athletes.
Yeah.
They need fresh water. They need, wash their pans. Their dog food pans. If you got your dogs on a chain, when I feed mine, I throw mine back out on the lawn, but I bleach them twice a week. Dip them in a bucket of bleaching water and scrub them down. Because a dog on a chain, that dish hits the ground. I feed all mine on top of the house. The dish hits the ground. The chain brings it by. It gets in some feces. Then that's on the dish. And when you get that on the dish and it just adds up, or rain and mud around their yard. I rake everything out daily, and keep it. I treat the ground monthly, all spring, summer, and fall. And I just try and keep them as healthy as you can.
Yeah. Well, I think, cleaning most of mine, mine are on gravel or pavers. I've got pavers in a lot of my pens, which kind of makes like the concrete pad, but Maddie, she was this weekend, and this is something she loves to do, and I'm not sure why she does it, but she loves to clean the dog bowls. So she'll go down, she'll clean all the water buckets, and she'll clean the water buckets, and she'll go and clean all the food bowls. And she does that pretty much every other weekend. She's got her hand in it doing that.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's a nice clean shiny bowl and the buckets. I had a horse girl tell me, take a little bit of Listerine and dump it in the water bucket. like during the summer, because that helps with algae.
Yep.
I mean, I wash them out 3 or 4 times a week. Flowed, flushing out the old, day old water and putting in new. But a little bit of that helps with the algae.
Yeah. No, and we do the same thing. We do the exact same thing. So that's good. So what those good looking hounds you're running? What's your bloodline? Where did you start at? Did you start with the same bloodline that you're hunting now? And how long have you been running dogs?
Well, when I was 15, coming on 16, I bought 2 pups off Joe House.
Mm.
And they were off in House Clinton, Hurstball, and Banjo Bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I acquired another one, I don't know, several years down the road that was bred similar. And I did have a couple straight off in Lipper. They were good dogs. I just, a little too much hype on this for me. I mean, I like the Tom and Clint. And there was some New England dogs here in Maine. Guys in Vermont, guys in New Hampshire, they got on and bought dogs off Joe House and Harold Dickerson, loose fruit stuff. And anyways, then dogs have been bred down through and, kennel names always change, So you can trace that. I take the big generation papers and I start highlighting the house and try and highlight some more down through and see where I'm at. But I mean, predominantly there's more house blood in these dogs, and I just kind of tweaked it over the years. And I took a little break there, and I had running dogs for a long time too. Coyote hounds, but I never walked one dog. One type of dog, the running dogs over, and I never bred tree dog to running dog. My mind is just, you breed a better running dog or you breed a better tree dog. And I mean, it just, no cross is ever going to be 100%. But I'll cross a half brother to half sister. I got a couple puppies right now that is off an old bitch off my old Taz dog. He was in Bear Hunting Magazine, Legendary Deceased.
Mm-hmm.
And he was probably as good a dog as I ever went to the woods with, not just because he was mine. He's just a machine. And I've got some dogs out here that are directly off him still, 10 years old. So I'm trying to do the best I can and breed back to something that's got him in it, or my old fighter dog that went back to, that was off in Hawk, which was off in Honda. Mm-hmm. And right now I got an aunt nephew cross. I've bred the half brother, half sister cross. I've bred real tight, and I got a bitch out there that's 2 bitches out there that are kind of the same cross, a year apart. They got 3-4 shots of pads in them, 3 or 4 shots of Hawk. I mean, they got Kate, which is double with a double Rock River Ford, and I don't know. It seems to work. You got to take them. You got to hunt them. It doesn't matter if you go get the best pup out of world champion bloodline. If you don't hunt them and don't spend time with them, they're not going to know anything. It's just like a kid. If you don't help that kid along, teach him to tie his shoes, read a book, do his arithmetic, he ain't gonna be that smart. So you gotta spend time with them. I spend a lot of time with these puppies, following them and just taking them everywhere. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to truck, I throw them in the truck. I'm going to go see my grandkids, I throw them in the truck. I'm just going to take them for a ride on a Sunday and ride around, look for cat tracks in the winter. They're in the front seat of the truck, or they're in the mm-hmm. dog box, they're in the house, and if you can't take 15, 20 minutes of the day and spend a lot of time, it's just, if somebody does that daily, you will see the difference.
Yes.
In raising, they don't learn nothing on a chain. They don't learn nothing in a pen.
Yeah, I just, on several of my podcasts, I've said 5 minutes a day works wonders.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned a dog, I had an old dog named Ring, and he was the same in the. He was in Bear Hunter. Steve Fielder done an article on him in Bear Hunter magazine. So Ring was a mixed up dog, but Ring's top side was Lipper, and then of course the other side went back to the Ball and Barney. But I've always said this, Kirk, and I believe it. that if you can get House's Clint in your dogs, or you have it in your dogs, you will get a trail dog.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you can get House's T, Loose Bruce, Crestball and Banjo, Clint, Tom, you're going to have dogs that trail. You're going to have dogs that, and I never put cameras on my bait until a couple of years ago, but hunting these young dogs, you go in, but it's all in condition. You could see a bear during the summertime cross the road. It's 100% humidity and 90 degrees, and be there 30 minutes, and they can't even smell it on the ground. It's all about barometric pressure. It's all about condition, any moisture. That humidity, I think, eats up a lot of scent and does it quickly. Last summer, I had a rig strike. I mean, you could feel the dog box almost coming out of the truck, and I dumped them. They had the bear caught 150 yards off the road, walked them another 150 yards and treated. Went in, patted them all up, took pictures and video, brought them out, put them in the truck, drove down the road 5 miles, got the same exact rig strike, dumped them, and they cold trailed for a mile and a half.
I believe it.
I can't smell that track. You can't smell that track. You got to rely on them dogs, and you got to trust them. I mean, I've dumped them off the truck, and I can tell by the look in their eyes if it's junk. Some of them won't come off the truck, and I'm like, then why did you just open? We're not going to do this today.
That's right.
And I've had days that it's just textbook, bang, slamming rig strike. If your young dogs don't run junk, you're lying to yourself. I want a gamey dog. Do I put up with the trash running? Absolutely not. But they're gonna rig it. They're gonna run it. You just gotta have to put a handle on it.
And that's gonna. If you're a true houndsman, that is part of the process. Like, I'm like you. I used to get torqued up when my dogs was running junk. And now, like, I don't care. Like, if you're out there, I don't have moose and stuff like you do. Our bobcat population is, it's not the best. We do have cats, and I have treed some here and there. But, deer and coyotes are our main thing. And I've said this, I tell our group this all the time. If you can't break your dogs off deer, then that's a problem, because every corner you go around, every fence post you go around, everywhere, they're everywhere. Our deer population is threefold what it should be. And, I take every opportunity to work on my dog, whether they hit it or not, whether they strike it or not. I stop my truck, I turn my young dogs out, and as soon as I see that behavioral change, very light stem, pop, 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 I get them, they come back to me, I pet them up, I put them in the truck, and I move on. And, but I used to get tore up when my dogs run junk, and now I'm like, until that dog's, 4 years old, 5 years old, I know, even if I break him or trying to break him, that he's still gonna, that gaminess, that prey drive is genetically programmed, and I know that it's gonna happen.
Hey, you just got to get them on the right game and be able to read your dogs, read what they're striking on. So the third week of October, boom, there's coon on baits. That coyote comes through, and you got bears.
Yep.
And the third week of October, every bait fishers were showing up. I mean, did they run one? Oh yeah, they did. And I watched two of my dogs are going to be 3 in December. I watched them they were going out trailing. There'd been a bear there, 5 hours prior to the fisher. And I was like, well, I'm going to cross my fingers, but I just dumped all 6 in there. I said, they'll go, they ain't going to bother with him. And then after I dumped them 2 young males, I was like, well, probably should have held on to them. And dog handler 101, and they get out, and I see the other young dogs keep going, and then I see my female and young male come right back, the ones that are going to be 3, and they come right back to the truck. And I knew I said, well, I'm going to let them finish it. Oh, they finished it all right. They had a fish retreat. Plus, it was only 500 yards, and they got an attitude adjustment, and away we went. But I'm just gonna. I don't shock my dogs unless I see what they're running.
Exactly.
You get on a sow and a cub, and they're running circles, and you think you're running a coyote.
That's right.
I'm not taking the gamble. If a cat pops out, so be it. I'm just going to let them finish that cat race, where they catch it, tree it, or they get outrun. You know, that's something I run during the winter. I'm not going to push them to do it during the summertime, but if that's what they get on, then so be it. I mean, I can tell you 15, 18 years ago, I ran every subspecies to a black bear you could run one morning. I am not kidding you. I mean, they come out with porcupine quills. 3 young dogs come out with porcupine quills. They treat a coon. They smell like a skunk. They run a coyote. They chase the moose, and they ran a deer. And all by 10 o'clock in the morning. You want to talk about coming uncorked? I was beside myself. My hunting partner says, I'm going home. I said, well, he said, tomorrow's a new day. And he goes, I can't believe you just haven't totally lost it. You know, if a man was going to have a heart attack, that would have been the day to have one.
They were on fire.
Oh, they were. And then I got out with a cattle prod and struck it across the side of my dog box. And they all cowered down, and I'm like, it don't matter. They had electricity put to them all day long. They just get goofing up. And I went about 2 miles, and they struck, run, treat a big bear. I petted them up, and then it was like I had no trash problems the rest of the year.
They got it out of their system, did they?
That's all at once, and I'm like, I'd rather have it all at once than daily, you know. But I mean, that's just. I mean, I have a friend of mine. He says you'll tell the bad before you tell the good, and I'm like, you just got to be that way. When somebody's asking me about puppies, and you got great looking dogs, and I want a puppy, and I'm like, look, they don't walk on water. It's all in the handler.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to be able to read them dogs and spend time with them, and it's hard for me to send puppies with people I don't know that don't hunt, you know, and
mm-hmm.
You know, it's just, and I've shipped them all over the place. I mean, I got some that are supposed to go to Spain next year. I got a guy in Africa who wants 4. He wants to fly me over. He wants me to bring 4 puppies to him, and
nice.
I sent them to the country of Georgia, which is Russia. The boys that came from Norway, I think they're going to want 1 or 2. You know, Idaho. I get some guys in Utah, Nevada, New Mexico want some, and you know, they don't walk on water, but just hunt them. That's all I can tell you. Just hunt them.
Well, I think it's the hardest thing for me is you got to put them in hands with people that are going to hunt them and give them every opportunity to be successful. And if you don't do that, then you know you're not really being fair to the hound.
Nope. Not at all. Not at all. There's some boys in Michigan that I don't know how many I've picked out there, but they've made some good dogs out of them. And one kid actually called me the other night, and he says, for a young dog, which would be a little mate to my jet dog that got killed, he said she's just super cold nosed. Now, people may believe it, they may not, but when that jet was 7.5 months old and little Taz was 13 months old, I was using that jet dog to rig with. A molecule of bear scent, that dog would lose his mind on the box, and you could let him off. And I ain't saying he found every one of them. Sometimes I had to cut an older dog with him if he couldn't find it. But he'd find 80% of them, and he'd just smoke that track and be treed. And it was just a year we had a lot of acorns, and the bear were moving, and they were crossing the roads, going to the river, because that was pretty much the only water source, you know. And everything else was dried up, and it was just constant. I just put a lot of bears to him, and he was just destined to be just, you know, a legend, you know. He got killed at 2 years old.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I had a friend of mine, SWAT guy from Danny Koger from West Virginia, hunting with me one day, and we struck a bear, and I dumped, and they went 80, 90 yards and swam across, I don't know, 40 feet of water on the stream and started trailing, and he dumped in behind me, and we ended up run for half an hour and treed, and the bear was trying to cross the road, and we kept turning him, and we must have wore him out, turning him, he treed, and we only had a 200-yard walk, and we got in there, and he thought that was pretty good, and he said, boy, good young dogs. I said, he ain't bad for 7.5 months old. And his eyeballs got big as saucers. And he's like, I turned my 4-year-old in behind a 7.5-month-old puppy. I said, he's a rig dog. But that's just trusting your dogs, you know. I mean, when they got it, I try and push them, but sometimes I do push them too hard. But you've got to watch them pups, you know. They'll buck an ankle and they'll get full of fluid, and then, you know, that ankle's always going to be swelled the rest of their life. So a little bit goes a long ways, and might push them a little extra day or two, and then give them a couple days off. And, you know, you got to do that. You got to have that feel for it when you get them young dogs that are just rock stars.
Yeah, well, putting them in the woods is the main thing. You've got to put them in the woods, give them opportunity. I mean, like I said, all the dogs that you've mentioned, I've had dogs out of Loose Bruce and Hondo, Lipper, you know, housebred, and like a lot of the dogs, a lot of the same dogs that I have that's how that goes back in their bloodline. So, I mean, starting with good genetics is number one, and I really, like I said, I really like the looks. I guess what size are you looking for? What are some character? We've got over the cold nut. We know that we got to have a trailing dog, and you've got to have. I mean, how much grit do you like? How much size do you like? What are those things that you're looking for in a dog?
I like leg. You know, I like a leggy dog. But I like an athletic dog. You know, I mean, I like them females that are 38, 50 pounds, you know, 40, 45-pound females, perfect for me. Males, 58 to 68 pounds, you know. I mean, I don't like anything bigger than that. 60-pound males, perfect for me. But it's the athletic, you know. You can see it in them when they're I call it, when they're puppies, you can watch that dog slope. You know, he's just graceful when he runs, you know. I mean, that dog don't seem to hurt himself, you know. And you'll have dogs that got a little bounce in the hip, you know, and them the dogs that wore out at 5 years old, you know, in the mountains. I want a dog that's athletic, agile, graceful when they move, and they just have to be that way when you're hunting the mountains. You know, the flatter country, swamps, a bigger dog is probably a better dog. They're a little bit bonier, a little bit tougher, but, you know, I like a medium build dog, you know, medium bone. And as far as grit, you can't hunt dead dogs. And a man can only afford so many vet bills. And I got enough, I got to patch them up. And, you know, every year or two, I got to take one trip to the vet, you know, because it's beyond my capability. But hard barking, fast dogs that will put pressure on a bear is what I'd rather feed day in and day out. You know, if they get in there and they're 8-10 feet from a bear and they're working them, they can get away from them. That thick green stuff's hard to get away from them. A bear might not catch them, but when he charges them, they run into them blowdowns, and then they can't get away, and I can't say they get run over, but, you know, they'll end up with a hematoma on the ribs or something from, you know, just running into a tree. But, and, you know, my dogs get caught. They get caught. You know, they get holes. And some are more than you want. And I just want them to, you know, respect. They got to have that brain so they get a little respect for the animal.
Right. And one of the things you had said before is that and I know I've noticed this with my dogs, some of the tighter lipper bred dogs are a little bit more spastic. Do you see that?
Yeah, I'd pass on that.
Yeah.
I just pass on it. I just, you know, but I just, the house is chief, the Tom, Clint. I mean, there was a dog down in Massachusetts, Jim's Hard Time Ranger, which was out of Whitebeck's Clint, which was out of House's Clint, and he was a big black and white dog and a strong built dog, and he threw a lot of bear dogs. And I have a buddy of mine in Vermont. He's probably got the heaviest of it in his dogs, and, you know, they predominantly come out black and white. They trail good. they bay good, hard tree dogs, good rig dogs. You know, in Vermont they can't bait, so they're rigging all summer long, and then boom, fall comes and they're walking cornfields and they're walking apple orchards or they're walking the beach. You know, and then dogs adapt well. You know, but I mean, I got some of that in my dogs. It's just, I don't know. I'm maintaining it, and I try and look at them faces and try and make a good cross, and I keep them registered because I want to just see, you know, what I'm falling back on.
Yeah, no, I can totally agree with that.
You know, I got a couple out here that I didn't think they had the nose, you know, but hitting 2-3 years old, they really shine, you know, as far as cold trailing, you know, and I don't know, I guess I have never been without a cold nosed dog. So it's hard, you know, you just keep hunting that dog and keep pushing them. And I mean, I go to a base, it's a 4, 5, 6 hour old track. I dump all 6 out.
Mm-hmm.
I dump young dogs and all. They all need to grab a piece of the pie, and they seem to work good together, and it's like a swarm of bees once they all figure that track out, and they don't stand on the head. And I can't have it. I can't stand a dog that stands on his head. That drives me absolutely nuts. You know, there's an outgoing track, find it, grab it, and let's go. And you got them bears coming in and out and in and out and in and out all night long, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that one outgoing track, and I've been fortunate enough that they grab it and they go, and they, you know, if they come back in the road, you know the bears walk the road. So I'll walk them down the road, you know, road them, walk them. I'll take it back up, or you'll watch them zigzagging back and forth in the road. You know they got it. They're just not opening. But I got a couple that when I start walking them down the road, they'll hit that track and they'll open back here, back there. But once they get it out of the road, they just dope, and away they go. It's just like a swarm of bees, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They all pull, and yeah, that one's got it. Let's all go, and they just work it and get it going, and the game on. But like I said, they don't walk on water. They have their days just like anybody. Nobody's perfect, and dogs ain't either.
That's right. Well, Kirk, with that, is there anything you want to leave us with? Like I said, I you know, glad to hear you guys had a good season, and like I said, I've really admired the dogs from afar, and you know, I appreciate
if you get a chance, come up next fall.
Well, I may take you up on that. Now, I like to go hunting.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get some hunting in.
I don't know if
I like hunting with different people.
Yeah.
I hunt all summer by myself. You know, I got 1 or 2 young guys that go with me. My buddy goes with me, and none of them own any dogs other than a coon dog or a beagle, and that's about all. I run all summer, and then fall, you know, I got clients, and I like hunting with some other people and seeing the dogs work. And
well, yeah, we may have to do that for sure.
Oh, you're more than welcome. More than welcome.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on and kind of, you know, sharing your hunting with us and the dogs with us. Like I said, it's so funny that you're running. You've got more of it in your bloodline than I do right now. Mine's kind of filtered out through. I've lost some older dogs, didn't get them bred, and you know, I've lost some of that bloodline. But I really like what you're running. That's been in my bloodline for, you know, almost 30 years. So I can see some of the exact same things you're saying, and that's very interesting to me that's the same dog that you're still running. So I really appreciate. I like hearing that. I like hearing the stories and the dogs and the bloodlines and the traits that those dogs throw with those different bloodlines. So I appreciate it. I'm sure our listeners appreciate it. So I can't say it enough. Thank you for helping us teach, train, and learn.
Yeah, more than welcome. Anytime. I tell anybody that reaches out to me, just give me a call. You know.